Good morning, everybody. Jeff Rediger along with Bret Bell. Bret's a very successful federal advisor in Iowa, and I've worked with Bret for a couple of years now. The purpose of this presentation today is to discuss the thrift savings plan transfer rollover options and the potential land into if you don't do it correctly. And so I always have to start with this because he's sure there, Bret.
It's another cold day. It's 2.
2? Okay.
2, yeah.
Yeah.
Above 0.
That's kind of a cheap shot for me, and
yeah.
I'll get paid back sometime, I'm sure. Anyways, for time purposes, Bret has a client coming in here at in 30 minutes, so we need to get rolling. So everybody has our website up, and so Bret, when somebody's ready to do business with you, what's the first steps for you in transferring and starting the process?
Well, if they're currently employed and if they've met the requirements, of attaining age 59 and a half, then that's TSP 75. That's the form you need. If you're employed, you're not separated from service, and you want to do an age-based withdrawal, that's TSP 75. So and I know you can go to the thrift website, you can go to your website, but for me, so I know it's current, and I don't keep it in a PDF file or anything. I just literally go to the Google bar, type in TSP 75, and it pops up. I print it off, and I'm ready to go. So that's the first thing I do. Okay,
let's do that. TSP 75. I went to the website. You could do that through our website. TSP 75.
Yeah. And then I go to that second one down.
Okay, got it.
Oh, no. Whoops.
There it is. Is that it?
Oh, actually, no, go back, Jeff. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry.
This is a little small on my computer. Yeah, no, actually, it's the first one. That actually gives you the form where it says, no thanks, just download TSP 75.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay, there it is. Okay.
There it is. Yep,
all right, got it.
That's where I get the form, and, and it's current. I know that much. And so, So then do you want to just kind of go through some of the sections and I can talk about some of the landmines I've stepped on along?
Yeah, because here's the deal, everybody out there, that if you don't do this, it's going to take you a lot longer to get the money transferred, and you're going to get frustrated. So Bret's going to go through here what you need to do and some of the mistakes he's made in the past that have slowed down transfers.
Right. Because, well, for instance, TSP, I don't know how many you fellows out there have done or have had contact with them, but it used to be a couple, 3 years ago, you could call TSP and ask them a question. Well, they've stopped that. If you're not a participant, they won't even ask. You can't ask a hypothetical anything. So you're stuck that way. So that's why you really got to make sure the paperwork's in good order, because they're not in the business of helping you. So Section 1 here. Again, every box is important, but I still manage to mess it up on occasion. For instance, most of the time you're going to be dealing with the civilian account. If they're at the VA or whatever agency. I mean, if they're in the National Guard or something, it's a uniform service account. But 99% of the times it's a civilian account. Well, again, I've probably sent in 50 of these over the last couple 3 years, and I just did a case the other day. I was visiting with the person. She works for the VA, but we had a long conversation because she'd been in the reserves, but some of it was active duty, and so we were, talking about, the buyback and all that stuff. And for whatever reason, I checked uniform service, and that sent it down the black hole of Calcutta. and it took me, because it goes to an entirely different area. I'm like,
Yeah.
sent 2 in the exact same day, and one, the money showed up at one carrier, and after a couple of days, I realized I've done something wrong. And then, and what I had also done on this too, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, is I broke my own rule, and that's why this one took me so long, is what I do every, I try to do every time, and I kind of got lazy on this last one, I guess, is that, so we meet with the federal employee, we agree to move their money, we fill out all the paperwork, we get this filled out. Once I know that the thrift form has been faxed to Thrift Savings Plan, I then, 2 or 3 days later, I get on a conference call to Thrift with that client just to make sure they got it and everything's in good order. And that has saved my butt a few as far as, so I would highly recommend that. Give them a couple days. It usually takes about 48 hours for it to get into their system, and then pick up that phone and get your client on the phone and call them and just see where you're at. And you can head off a lot of landmines that way too.
So what do you say? Do you tell the client that you're going to do that before you submit it? And purpose of what do you tell the federal employee? Why are we doing this?
Well, and it's funny how it's kind of a slippery slope. You don't want to bash the government and say that Thrift Savings Plan doesn't have very good customer service, considering they work for the government, but they know they do.
Yeah.
And so I just say, listen, I've done this a long time, and if we send this in, they won't talk to me. So I'm kind of flying in the dark here, and if we want to make sure this happens, so it's really in yours and my best interest to, again, once we know it's there, to pick up the phone and call them. And I've never had anybody not want to do that. So
okay, that's
and like
good
I said
advice
on
there.
the last one, I kind of got lazy and didn't do it, and so then, and I will say lately Thrift has been, fantastic. They've been getting these things out 2 or 3 days. I'm stunned. Yeah,
that's good. That's good to hear.
It was one, as a matter of fact, that I'm talking about. We screwed it up. It got screwed up. So then, of course, now I got to get the client back into the office. We call them up. I realized that, what I'd done, because I went back and looked at the form myself like 5 times. What's going on? What's going on? And I finally noticed I checked the wrong box at the top, and then confirmed it with Thrift. Well, they did it once we redid it, they sent it out the next day. Couldn't believe it.
No.
That was nice.
Yeah, that's. But
that should have never happened. I should have caught it, 10 days before it happened by just doing my quick 5-minute conference call with the participant. So, but anyway, so that's section 1. So make sure those boxes are important.
Okay.
Also, and if you see that little subset thing there, note if you're married, you must complete section.
Right here.
Yeah, if you're new to the game, if you're a federal employee and you want to take money out of your thrift plan, your wife or your spouse, husband or wife, whatever, has to sign this form too, and it has to be notarized. Both of them, both sections, where the participant signs and where the spouse signs. That's just the way it is. So if you just have one of them sign and you get back to your office and you send it in, it's not going through. So.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Let's see. Oop, I got to the wrong thing, Jeff. Okay. So then now section 2 or number 6, amount you're requesting. This is the hardest part of the form to me because they just do it goofy. It's easy if you're going to take the whole thing, you just check entire vested balance, and it all comes out. Or for sometimes some people want to just maybe try you out and say, well, I've got 100 in there, let you manage 50, and then I'll see how it does compared to what I've got left in here, blah blah blah, that sort of thing. So if you're going to do partial, you write in the hard number, 50,000, or if you're just going to roll the whole thing, that's entire vested balance. Okay, but then what's really important though, and it should be the next box if you ask me, but it's not. It's all the way to section. You want to scroll through there, Jeff? It's next page. Yeah, there's where the spouse signs. We'll go back to this stuff. Okay, here, section 8. This is the most nonsensical part of it to me. But so you went back and you were in that other section and you said I want 100% vested balance. Well, then you figure, okay, they're going to send it. If you don't have anything in this box, no money leaves. So if you say I want the entire vested balance, you still have, and that's going to go to an IRA. You have to write 100% in there. If you don't write anything, the paperwork stops. So then you go back and then you said you wanted to take 50,000 out. It's an actual number versus the entire vested balance, and you want to roll that 50 to an IRA, then you got to still come over here and put in 100%. I don't know. It's just kind of an odd step. It's like here's what I want, and I want 100% of it rolled over. Now, sometimes though, the person.
So wait. Let me back up. So
yeah.
If you put in the entire balance, you still have to put 100%, meaning that it's transferring to...
100% is transferred to an IRA.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So then the second thing, though, is that sometimes somebody wants money in their pocket, and so they want some of it, just I want it, and then they want some of it rolled over. That's the only time that you would not put 100 in there.
Okay.
So let's say their entire vested balance was $100,000. So you check, but after the discussion, they say, well, I want 10,000, and then I want to roll over 90. Okay? Well, then what you do is you check the entire vested balance. You come to this section, and you write in 90%. So whatever hard number they want, whether it's 15,000 or 12 or 20, you have to figure out what percentage that is of whatever their balance is, because obviously their balance is never going to be an even number. So you have to figure that percentage to make it work right.
That is screwy. Okay.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Right. So then go back to that other one, Jeff, that first page again. And then you see right below Section 2, you got Section 3, direct deposit information.
Mm-hmm.
So if they did do the split, meaning I want 10 in my pocket and the rest I want to roll over, then you don't even need a void check. It's nice. Then if you just say I want that 10,000, I want it right in my checking account, then that's what you do. You hit checking, and you put in your name and your bank and your routing number and all that stuff, and it goes right in there for them. But remember that on this particular plan, anything that goes directly to them is a mandatory 20% withholding. So if they want 10,000 for a kitchen remodel, make sure you have that conversation with them and say, well, if we do this and you say I want 10,000, they're going to send you 8. So do you want 10,000 in your pocket? Then we're going to have to add the 20. You're going to have to do 12 or whatever to get the 10. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, because you don't want them, because there's no way to avoid that or fix that. That money, when it comes out of thrift and if it goes directly to them, there's a mandatory 20% withholding. But one thing that you can do to get around that limitation and actually do them a favor and add value is maybe they're not going to, maybe they're retiring and doing this, and they're not going to have as much income in the year they do this. And so they don't want all that 20%, withholding because maybe they're only in the 15 bracket, or whatever. Well, then you can do them a favor and you can roll the whole thing to an IRA and then do a withdrawal from the IRA, and then they have total control over the tax. So,
that's a good tip.
Yeah, so that's another thing that gives you credibility and it helps them out, because a lot of times they don't want that 20% pop, and maybe they're used to getting a refund, and if they don't withhold any taxes, they'll just come out even. So that gives them some more options and choices they didn't have before.
Good idea. Okay, good.
Okay. So yeah, so that's what that is. I've never had anybody want more tax held out. That's box 4, so I don't do that a lot. Section 5, that's where the participant signs. Make sure, I've missed it, make sure that you write their address in box 14, even though they know what it is. I guess they just wanted, it's like a backup for them in case they can't find it or whatever, I don't know. But make sure, don't leave any lines or boxes empty or it stops everything. One other tip too, I remember, is also when you're filling out this form, write legibly and darkly, if that's even a word. Because I one time had one stop because they said, well, you put in their birth date and it was kind of light, so we really couldn't make out the birth date, so we figured we had to send all the paperwork back. So yeah.
Yep.
So since that one, I've made sure I pressed hard onto the paper.
Well, and something that is important for everybody to know, especially those just starting in the federal space with us, is that the thrift savings plan is separate from OPM.
Right. They're their own agency. They're their own deal in Alabama.
Yeah. Yep. So it's a completely different setup. It's not tied to OPM's retirement department, and that's important to understand because a lot of times advisors are trying to look up things with retirement and they spend a lot of time dealing with OPM. In reality, that's worthless.
Yeah. You don't want you don't need OPM at all.
No.
One just occurred to me too that you might want to be aware of if you're really new is this client that I do have coming in here this morning, and it's 10, Jeff, not 9:30, so I got a little more
Okay.
time.
All right. Okay.
Still need some prep time, of course. But anyway, she retired Monday. Now, I've already made her a client when she took money out because she was above 59.5 through TSP 75. Well, now, so she worked a couple more years, kept contributing to the thrift savings plan. So now that she's retired, we're going to get the rest of that out, but now we've got to switch gears and use form TSP 70. TSP 75 if they're working, TSP 70 if they've separated from service. That's the two
Right.
forms.
Okay.
But one thing to keep in mind, too, is even though she retired Monday and she's coming in today, I'm not sending that paperwork in because it takes OPM at least 3 weeks, and I'd usually give it more like 30 days before the thrift plan knows you've separated. So if I got all excited when she comes in and filled out that paperwork and got it faxed into thrift, it would actually be worse off than waiting because they would just send it back and say, well, she's still employed.
Yeah.
They don't know she's left. So,
right.
So make sure you know that. I mean, when somebody retires, that's great, but it's at least a 3-week wait. How they know is a couple ways. Again, some of these people are really computer savvy. Some aren't. They can just go to the thrift plan and check, and it'll tell. And it'll show their status as separated from service. Or what we do is I usually wait about 3 weeks, and then we do a quick conference call and say, hey, do you see that they've retired? And if they have, then we send the paperwork in. So,
got it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, this has to be notarized, so make sure you do that. I guess we can move on to the next page, Jeff. So, and again, you see that top name and account number. If you don't write in their whole name on the top of every page and the whole thrift account number at the top of every page, your paperwork's not in good order and it's gonna stop everything. Because from what I understand, sort of, again, this is just a lot of trial and error and dealing with the thrift, but I'm pretty sure these 3 pages go to 3 separate places. Once it gets there, it's scanned in and then it's separated, and one department does one thing and one does the next, and so that's why they need to know, your name and account number at the top, because they get separated somehow. It's not one file. So again, sounds a little like extra work to me, but what do I know?
No.
Yeah.
So you don't work for government.
Yeah, right.
Right.
This one too is a big one. The spouse has to sign, and it has to be notarized. Don't forget the date. All that stuff. I mean, it seems like a simple form, but man, I'll go through these 2 or 3, 4 times. It just stresses you out before I send it in, because it's just like, if you make one tiny mistake, that it's gonna, it's gonna be in bad order. So, that's what I do. And it was funny. I had a case the other day too. Make sure you're careful on this. I was with a client and his wife in their house, and we filled this all out. And I was about ready to have her sign the form, but somehow it came up in conversation that they were married, but they actually had gotten a divorce like 15 years prior, but then got back together, but never bothered to get remarried. And so I said, so basically, if she'd signed as spouse, it would have wrecked the paperwork. So I said to him, I said, "Are you married?" Well, no, we're not married. When you went back to work for the federal government, did you say you were married? No. Whoa. So we didn't. So she didn't fill it out, and
oh my gosh, yeah.
Work went in good order. So yeah. So that was a good fact-finding thing on me to make sure I knew that. Yeah.
Well, and there's a couple reasons for paperwork not being in good order. Number one, you're dealing with a government entity. Enough said. Number two, they're really looking for reasons not to release the funds. So you have to understand the dynamics behind it.
Right.
And we won't get into the details, but I wouldn't be surprised if the people in Alabama are almost looking for reasons not to finish the paperwork. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Oh, and we got another supposed debt issue coming up here in March. I read somewhere, and I actually printed it off. So this is a heads up, and this is a talking point you might want to, if you're running some federal appointments, is that if they go through the same thing they did a couple of years ago, and the Treasury Secretary basically has already said he's going to have to go to extraordinary measures as of the 15th of March. Well, basically what that means is he's going to tap into the G fund and use that to pay the government's bills.
Yep.
And they've already said the likelihood of that is high. So you might want to, that might be something to converse with some potential people. So anyway.
Yeah, they did that 2 years ago. They borrowed from the G fund, which in the private sector.
The Secretary of Treasury, Jack Lew, went on Meet the Press and said, I use extraordinary measures, and it was billions that they took out, and then they put it back in.
Yep, I know. That's
kind of funny that basically
it.
People that work for the government, their actual money is the only checking account the government has, I guess.
Yeah, anymore, yes. So
kind of crazy. Yeah. So anyway, that's
a good point. That's a good point. So
that I spotted. That was on one. Okay. I don't know. Let's go on to the last page of this thing, Jeff.
Yeah, and then we do have a few questions I'd like to take since we right here.
Yeah. So again, we've been here, and make sure you put their name and the account number again at the top, and then Section 8 is very important. You've got to get that percentage correct to accomplish what you're doing. So if you're splitting money or what you're doing, you have to get your thinking cap on to make sure that's right. And then this last section, that's the important one too. That's the one that kind of stinks because this is where you lose control of the form because it has to be filled out by the new custodian, whoever the custodian of the IRA is going to be. I will tell you, I never send in the original with my paperwork, my indexed annuity paperwork or mutual fund paperwork or whatever it's going to be. I don't want to lose control of that, so I keep it. And then once I know that the account's been established, there's a contract number, I'll fill out 29 and 30, and then and then sometimes even 32, because I know the address of the custodian where the money's going to go, and then I'll fax that to the new business department, have them, whoever in their department handles that, do 33, 34, and 35, and then fax it to the thrift savings plan. And I can't emphasize more, don't ever let that custodian mail it. The thrift plan wants a fax. So it just works so much better when you fax it, and obviously it's a much faster deal if it's faxed to them versus mailed.
Right.
The other thing, too, is that just confuses thrift, and you have to get that through the custodian's head, is they don't require any medallion signature guarantee, and they don't want any letter of acceptance, from the new custodian. All they want is their form, so only give them what they want. Now, I've had a few carriers that insist that I still fill out their transfer form, and just for their compliance, and that's what their legal team thinks, so they have that on file, fine, but make sure they aren't sending their paperwork to the thrift plan, because it'll screw it all up. All the thrift plan wants is the thrift plan's paperwork.
Simple.
Yeah. So
good. Time for a couple questions. We're not.
Yeah, we're good.
Okay. Steve Freistack, who works with Tom Barton, wanted to know: does he talk to you before submitting any IRA?
Yeah, he should. Just call me, Steve. But if once you get one of these filled out, and we'll, you can even fax me or scan an email or something, a copy, so I can look at it too. The second set of eyes on it is not going to hurt. Just to make sure it's in good order, because it's supposed to be simple, but it's a tricky form.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. And for everybody else out there, Steve's works in the same broker dealer as Bret, so that's why Bret's looking at the paperwork. So I didn't want you getting a bunch of reviews on everybody else's form.
If I get the paperwork, it'll just get rolled to me. No, just kidding.
So if anybody has a question, another question up there, just put it in the chat bar. And if you think of something after the presentation today, you can email Alyssa. So that'll work well.
And another thing to, keep in mind is that, once you've done an age-based in-service withdrawal on Form TSP 75, that's it. There's no more partials. So the only way, so make sure you make them aware of that, because that's one of the, the pitfalls or the Achilles heel, or the thing that's not good about the thrift plan is that you get that lifetime one partial withdrawal. And so if you've taken it on this when they're still working, they're not getting any more money out. So you make sure you've got the appropriate liquidity for them in whatever it goes into. But because then when they retire, they're not doing a partial. You've moved over to Form TSP 70, and you're doing the entire amount into the IRA established. So
right. Steve had a follow-up question. We addressed that, where to get the form at the beginning of the presentation. You can either get it off the Fed Resource website by going to the TSP link, or Bret can help you out with that. So that was the follow-up question for him. Brian Ambrose has a question. Bret, he wants to know, can they still borrow from their TSP after processing TSP?
Yeah, you can
75?
still take a loan, but yeah, you can't do a partial withdrawal anymore. But again, if you got a loan on that thing, be careful, because if you're carrying a loan and you just roll it out after they've separated from service, that's all taxable. So So this is a way too that a lot of them, for instance, if they've attained age 59 and a half, don't realize, most of them have no idea when 59 and a half that they could take the money out. And so you might run into somebody who needed some funds, and this is a much better way to go about it than the loan, I think. So
Okay.
you can help them, or you could do the split thing where you could say, well, let's roll X to an IRA and put the other in your pocket, and then but then when it's in your IRA with me, you'll have liquidity that you can grab it if you need it, as many parcels as you want versus, the one and done in thrift plan.
Got it. Yeah. So, okay, great. Well, we've run out of time. Great information, Bret. You even functioned at 0-degree weather. That's awesome.
Hey, the wind chill's only 40 below, so.
Oh, well, there you go. So I
keeps
appreciate you taking
keeps you
the
sharp.
Yes, it does. That's exactly right. Thank you very much for sharing with us. Everybody recorded rebroadcast sent out. So Steve, for example, missing the beginning of it, you'll be able to pick up on the beginning there. Look for that, Aaron. And Bret, have a great weekend. Good luck with your meeting here.
Okay. Thanks, Jeff.
Okay. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you soon.
See you.